You already know where I'm going here. 2024 was yet another year that went by very fast, just like the previous year. Which is kind of funny to say considering I've done a lot this year. In fact, half of next year is already booked with content from this year, so that tells you how much I've done. Something different I've done this year is go on more extended trips. The day trip has been around since 2021, so it's been around for a bit. But extending it for a few more days and exploring a lot more in that time period offers a lot more content to come in. But anyways, today we're going to be taking a look at the top 5 best elevators of 2024. Obvious rules apply, I've had it written and filmed it this year, and no other year prior. Not that it really matters anyway, because it was pretty hard to pick the top 5 for this year. I had so many options, it was actually very hard to narrow it down, but eventually I did. So, let's get started. Let's first start with the most iconic elevator of the city of Bristol. This area is pretty well known mostly for Diesel Ducey, because he filmed a lot of stuff in the old days. And of course this ends up being the most iconic elevator because of the rarity of Otis pop-out fixtures. They are extremely rare to come by. So it's nice to see that this elevator is still going strong this year. And yeah, it's about as exciting as it gets. Seeing these fixtures pop out once they serve all the floors is very satisfying, and it's not anything like I've seen before. Granted, Westinghouse did the same thing, but that's even rarer to find, which is hard to believe honestly. There are two factors that do bring down this elevator a little bit, and why it's only in the number 5 slot. One is the running condition is not the best on this, it's very jolty for whatever reason. The other thing is that this elevator is always on the move. If you step off the elevator and you realize you're on the wrong floor and it closes, well, too bad it's gone and you won't have to wait a little bit considering it's the only elevator there. Which can be annoying, not going to lie. Granted, it's only 4 floors, but that instance can always happen sometimes. But ignoring that, this is a very amazing elevator, and if you haven't seen it, it's definitely a must check out. Not to mention that this building is open on the weekends as well, which is a rarity. So if you're interested in checking this out, I definitely recommend it. It's definitely a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Now we step over to UNC Chapel Hill to see one of its most iconic elevators, the gated Westbrook. It was generally between this and the gated Southern hydraulic I've seen over in Concord, but ultimately the Westbrook went up for me. Mostly because it serves a little bit more floors, has a nice epic motor to go along with it, which most Westbrooks do, and has some nice C.J. Anderson fixtures. It actually runs pretty well for its age and for a single speed elevator. But this elevator does have a pointless feature. Key locked call stations. Now why to say this is pointless because it makes it hard to access this elevator. But even if you do access this elevator, you can easily just step in and then ride it on the floor you find it on. Meaning it's just a very pointless feature to have. The first time I came to this campus, I made sure to find it before I left, and I fulfilled that promise. For sure. Actually kind of a last minute entry because I read this elevator towards the end of the year, but I'm glad I did. These are some of the most well-known Dover SPFs in the area, mostly known for their vandal-resistant fixtures with the traditional base, which is extremely rare. Funny enough, this is not the first traditional VRs I've seen. I've seen these fixtures used in a mod in Georgia of all places, and of course the UNC Chapel Hill parking deck that has this on the outside. So this is not my first rodeo with these fixtures. But this is easily the best elevator that features them because wow, these things are stellar. They're scenic, they run really well, they have a nice lobby to go along with it too, and they're pretty fast for 5 floors. Honestly, I can't really think of anything wrong with these elevators minus the minor maintenance going on with one of the buttons getting stuck. But that's about it. It's easy to see why these things are so famous in Raleigh, and you should definitely go check them out if you have the chance to. These things in their original state are stellar. and hopefully it stays that way for the years to come. This is my first year where I stepped into the state of Mississippi, and never would have thought I would find the best elevator, or something that would be close to the best elevator, in this area of all places. This is a hidden secret of Gulfport, of all places. And not many people even know about it because it was never filmed before now. This has to be one of the best designed elevators I've ever stepped into. It's really rare to come across an elevator that uses marble in their elevators, but man, does this elevator look beautiful. It may be super shiny for most people, but for the average user, it doesn't matter because wow, does this elevator stand out. Combine it with its shiny cab, pristine condition, and excellent running quality for Montgomery County, there's not much you can go wrong from here. In fact, I was thinking about making this the #1 elevator of the year, but there was a drawback. This elevator is 100% locked off. You have to be staying at this hotel to access any of the floors, which is a mood killer for me because this would have easily been #1 if it wasn't the case. Not to mention that this is an adult resort, so younger people can't come in here easily. They will ID you, so don't even try. But that's not really much of a downgrade for me considering that I'm over the age of 21, so that doesn't really matter. If it wasn't for these being locked off, this would have easily been my #1 pick. But unfortunately, it stays at #2. But hey, #2 is nothing to complain about at all. What a beautiful set of elevators. Before I show off my #1 pick, let's go over some honorable mentions, which I have a lot of, so I'll go by these quick. I know Synergy is not a very popular model, but man, ThyssenKrupp killed it with these installs. And this isn't a parking garage of all places. These are easily some of the best Synergies I've ever ridden, and they're scenic as well. These are pretty cool, and the configuration on the middle cab is especially cool. But unfortunately, it really wasn't top 5 worthy, but it probably would be top 10. I would never put a ThyssenKrupp Vertical Express install in my list, but man, this is easily the best one. It's kind of a pointless install considering there are free fast attraction elevators next to it, but I'm kind of glad they installed it because it's still pretty cool. I really like the scenic view of this one especially. Here's yet another parking deck with some stellar elevators. For being over 30 years old, these Elevonic 411s with luxury are still in great shape to this very day. That just shows how much they care about their elevators, and I respect it. Considering the infamous quality of parking deck elevators, this one definitely surpasses all the others. Not too far from #3, we got these elevators, which have a mix of van resistant fixtures, old and new, as well as custom lanterns, which is pretty cool, and a very nice cab. Aesthetically pleasing, I prefer next door, but these are still a close second. Between this and the Westbrook, this one obviously lost out, but hey, it's still an excellent elevator that actually runs pretty well for its age. And it's a gated hydraulic, which is not something you see every day. I'm at least glad I got to experience this elevator, even though originally when I found it, it was broken down. At least it's back up and running again, so I can't complain. Otis Gen 3's got boring real fast, but at least they tried with these. Not to mention their Compass 360 and a parking deck. That's not something you see every day, and I appreciate the effort. And they try to make it as nice as possible. Sure, it's kind of basic still, but I at least appreciate the effort. Not to mention, these things run pretty smooth. So, what's #1? Let's go take a look at it. Compared to the last few years when I shoehorned in a Vector for a 6 slot, I'm not doing it on purpose this time. I know Vector is not a perfect fixture as it is pretty cheap, but man, did they go all out with these elevators. I love how custom that is. It's in pristine condition, has a nice custom look to it, run excellently, and it's a Vector traction. You don't ever see those. Vector hydraulics are kind of rare, but they do get tiresome after a bit. But Vector tractions, on the other hand, are much more exciting, as they're extremely rare to come across. And I gotta say, these are some top tier vectors. And keep in mind, this is in the middle of nowhere. So, this is why you should start checking areas out more often. You never know what you can find. Because of that, these are the best elevators of the year. I would have preferred the second option more, but unfortunately, the code lock does restrict it a little bit. Oh well, this is still a perfect top tier though. And that's all there is to say about this list. It's time for the worst list. That's going to be fun. But I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.